Hello and welcome to a very special edition of Home Truths. Today we're talking to the mother and father of Christopher Donovan, who was brutally attacked and subsequently died in 2001. Friday the 25th of May 2001 started like a normal day for Christopher Donovan, but by the end of it, after a brutal attack and being run over by a car, he died. And on this week, I caught up with Ray and Vi Donovan to talk about the killing of their son Christopher and the work that they've been doing in schools recently to educate young people about the consequences of such actions that resulted in Christopher's death. Thank you, Ray and Vi, for joining us here at Break London. We've got a lot to talk about, and at any point I know if you want to just stop, just tell me and we'll stop. I want us to go back to Friday the 25th of May 2001. And Ray, I want you to tell me what happened that afternoon with Christopher before he left. And then I want us to talk about what happened that night.
Yeah, well, I got home from work. It was a heavy week and I was tired. It was bank holiday weekend, looking forward to holiday. And Chris was indoors. I'm having a laugh and joke, and what he does, he puts CDs on, but he really listens to every word. Mm-hmm. And this night he was playing Simply Red, I think it was Funfair. Yeah. And he's playing that, he went, listen to this, listen to it. I'm not interested in the words, we're having a laugh about it. And then he went away, got some art, said, try this on. I went, no, I'm interested in that. It was just fun, a bit of banter. And then he said, could you drive me to Amanda's house, because our lessons closed there. But he was there for 2 weeks, he listened to stuff, and I said, I'm too tired, Chris. If I drive again tonight, I think I'll crash the car. And he went, fair enough, I'll tell you what, I'll see Richard, that's his mate, and we go to Phil's. Now Phil's my other son, he worked in a pizza shop. And they would go with Phil to a youth leader's house. They went every weekend, they used to go to her house and she'd drive them home at 2 in the morning, so we knew where they were. And so he walked down, I was laying on the sofa, and as he left he did something he'd never done before. He kissed me on the forehead and told me he loved me. And then he left. Then Vi came home, and we do, we always say, we do what most parents do, you watch TV, have your dinner, go to bed, normal day. And 20 minutes, the doorbell rings, I'm thinking, how can two idiots forget their door keys?
Let's pause for a moment, because I was speaking to my mum last week, preparing for this interview, because we were supposed to come and see you on Monday. Yeah. And she said to me, whenever there was anything wrong with you, whenever you were hurting with everything, she always felt it. Same with me and my brother. She always felt when there was something wrong. She wasn't quite sure what it was, but she always felt something. I'm going to turn to you, Vi. Did you, before that doorbell rang, during that whole evening, was there anything feeling with you that was not sitting right, or absolutely not at all?
There was nothing that night, but during that week, Christopher had been particularly different all the week. It was this whole attitude. I mean, he said, Mum, will you come swimming with us? Come and watch me and Philip, his brother, swim. And I said, I haven't done that since you were children. I mean, goodness me, you're 18. And he went, no, Mum, it'd be fun. And I thought, this is odd. And so I did. We walked down to the swimming pool and I watched them through the glass as if they were 2 children. And it was just incredible. And I was sitting there thinking, this is odd. Yeah. It wasn't like Chris, and Chris wasn't a loving, kissy boy.
But yet that week...
But he was that week.
And his friend told us that, another strange thing was, he asked his friend to drive him all around the places we used to live.
Leading up to that...
And his friend said it was like he was reliving his past, his friend said.
Because that is...
It was odd. It was odd for Chris. We lived in Peckham and a few other places, and he went to Peckham, this is my house, went somewhere else, we used to live here. I stayed here, and it was all that. He went to my daughter's house with me and showed him all around. I
think you even said to me that night, you kissed me.
Yeah, never done that before.
That's not Chris.
Never kissed me before.
Philip would.
Yeah.
Philip, his younger brother, would. He was a kissy boy. Yeah. Somehow, but he wasn't.
And when you did that, when he kissed you on the forehead and said, Dad, I love you, you did have that second take and think, what was that about? You just like... No. Just thought, okay.
Just kind of thought, lovely, yeah.
That's nice.
To be honest, I was just too tired.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, he just went. If I knew then what I know now, because I would have given him that lift.
Yeah. Well. So that week he was acting slightly strange, doing things that he never quite usually did, reminiscing, asking his mate to take him around the area. asking you to take him swimming. Remember what we used to do? And you're looking through the window, you're thinking, God, I remember when you were 10 years old and we did this. We haven't done this in years. And then 12:40 in the morning, you get a knock at the door.
But like I said, the doorbell rang. And I went downstairs, like most days, I'm moaning. How can they forget their door keys, you know? And went up the door and said, Chris and Phil, there's 2 policemen. And they asked me, was I Chris and Phil's dad? I said, yes. And they said, we need to speak to you and your wife. I said, what about? I'm going to be honest with you. Chris, I got a phone call once from the police and they said, your 2 sons had jumped over the railings of a station trying to dodge their fear to school. And I thought it's something like that.
Because they weren't trouble.
And I thought,
well, lad is 18, you know.
And I thought, well, what have they been up to now? You know, it's like, they weren't in the gangs, they weren't bad boys, they were hard workers. Chris worked 14 hours a day. I thought, what are they up to? And then when they brought me upstairs, they said, Chris and Phil's been involved in a fight, Chris is seriously injured. And I just went to get my car keys, I went, no, we're driving you.
But at that time, did you think, what lads do, they've probably had a few drinks, probably got into a little scuffle outside of the pub or something in town, maybe a cut or something. You weren't thinking of that?
No, because Chris and Phil didn't go pub.
Oh, okay, you weren't.
They went to a pub, but they would always have a pint. They weren't when they were out their head, they'd have to have the money to go out there, to be honest with you. And Phil was working until 12 o'clock. That's what I was saying. Phil was working, and they went in the pub, had a pint with Richard and a couple of girls, and that was it. He asked a girl out that night and all. And then they went to Phil's shop, had a pizza, and walked up the road. So I just thought it was a fight, like you said. Just thought it was a Barney. I didn't know how serious it was, neither did I, did we? Until we drove down the road when the police car was hitting 100 miles an hour.
Then we fought.
So, and you were in the back of the car?
Yeah.
So you were in the back of the car's speeding. Vi, you just said, and you thought this was bad.
I thought, oh, this is bad. This is something worse. And then we saw the police lights in that road. We connected it to us for some reason.
No, sorry.
They drove us down the road.
Vi's memory goes sometimes. We were in the back of the car. We're driving up the London Road. This is a 4-lane A road with a central reservation, and that was closed.
Right, because of what had taken place, the car going over.
And the police, there was ribbons everywhere, and the police said to us, "We're sorry we had to go this way." And I kept thinking, it's just a fight. What's going on? But then as we come round, it was like Christmas. All these police lights and policemen and things everywhere, and we just. Then I started panicking. I started panicking.
You instantly made that connection.
Yeah.
We just knew something.
The police kept apologising.
They kept apologising for taking us that way, but wouldn't tell us why. You just got to assume that it's something to do with your kids.
Did you say anything at that point in the back of the car?
We were just praying.
We were just sitting praying because we didn't know what to think. To be honest, it was all happening.
When we got to that bit, I think panic got in me, but I still didn't know what was happening until we got to the hospital. And the first thing I saw was Richard and Philip in forensic clothing, and then it was serious.
So you were in the hospital. You were saying to Phil, you must have done something wrong, and then the police said, you can't see Christopher yet.
Yeah, I didn't know what to think, to be honest. It was all happening so fast, it felt surreal. It felt as if this is somebody else's nightmare, this can't be ours. That's my first thoughts of it. I didn't know what to think, what to say even. I think you're dumbstruck. Because you roused out of bed in the middle of the night and told you've got to get to the hospital, and you don't. Goodness knows what you're going to face. And to see Phil in forensic clothes, then you start to get really scared.
So did they take you both away then at that point and kind of put you in a room?
A room is, people. We say this to people who don't watch Casualty and Holby City and all that. It was nothing like that. It was like something like a room like this was small. It was like a prison cell.
Looked like a broom cupboard.
And they just put us in this room and shut the door and left us.
On your own?
Yeah. We had nobody in with cups of tea, nobody looking after us. No. There was me, Vi and Phil. And then a friend came along, she heard what happened and she came running down.
And how long were you there for?
Hours. We were there 21 in the morning, you could say, till Chris died, we were there from the time they took us to hospital till 20 or 4 in the morning.
Talk to me about being in that room. You and Phil.
Yeah. But we asked, it was me, Phil and Jill and you and four of us, and then
Jill joined us there.
That's the youth leader whose house we're going to. She came screaming down.
What happened with you and Phil? What was the conversation?
Well, I asked Phil what happened.
Yeah.
And I was still trying to get to the bottom of things. And Phil told us, he said, this is another thing. Chris and Richard went to the shop.
Mm-hmm.
Phil got paid. Back then in 2001 it was cash, we were in the bank.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Chris turned to Phil and said, let's get a mini cab to Jill's house. And Phil said, let's walk. So twice that night he asked for a lift and twice he was denounced. Yeah. So they were walking. And Phil said, we're just walking along singing. And they were singing Champagne Supernova.
Mm-hmm.
And two boys stopped them to start with and said, you're singing that wrong. And Chris said, well, what way should be sung? And they're having a laugh and a joke. So he said, we were looking for trouble, Dad. We would have took two boys on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not like they look for trouble, you understand?
Mm-hmm.
And the boys had a joke and a laugh, told them the right way to sing the song, and they left. But as they carried on, they come to a hill in the road, and coming the opposite way was a gang of 14 boys and girls. And as they met, there was no threat, what they could see. The gang opened up.
Mm-hmm.
Phil went through first, and the youngest one punched him in the face for no reason, broke his nose. And Phil, without thinking, he didn't know what he'd done. He did that,
Mm-hmm.
but the doctor said he clicked his nose back in.
Right.
It broke his nose, and the pain was so severe he collapsed. And two boys started kicking him, and they kicked him unconscious. Chris went to save Phil. This is another ID we had from me call. Chris went to save Phil. Two boys got in front. There was a bit of a fight. Another one got behind, got him on the floor. They stabbed on his head, kicked him in the face, left him there. Two cars came over the hill. One avoided him, and Phil woke up from his being unconscious and saw this. The second car came. She said in court, she thought it was a bundle of rags in the road. She ran over him, his belt corner exhaust pipe, she dragged him 40 metres down the road. While we're hearing this, the doctors just come in and they said to us, we're doing all we can. Then the panic starts.
Yeah.
But Chris, we're looking at severe brain injury because he's lost a lot of oxygen to the brain. And the funny thing was, we started a charity shop for a big hospital in Surrey called the Tadworth Trust. We opened the very first charity shop for him, and it's to do with brain damaged children.
Oh.
And we knew what to expect. I was thinking, I'm going to have to move my house, I'm going to get a ground floor flat,
Funny
get
what
this
you think,
equipment.
isn't it?
You know, you think, I don't know what your brain just goes into a different gear.
But you're prepared for, and it's bad.
Yeah.
You know it's going to be bad.
It's going to be bad, but you're prepared for, okay, maybe it's going to be brain damage,
Yeah.
but he's still going to be with us.
Yeah.
He's not going to die.
No.
So you're going in your head about, let's look at the ground floor, we may have to move, and via what are you thinking at this stage? But you're not thinking he's going to die.
I wasn't thinking he was going to die. I couldn't take it in, you see, because, you know, everything was normal that day, and suddenly everything's not normal anymore, and it still felt surreal that Philip was telling us this, and yet, why? Why did this happen?
Why did they hit him?
Yeah.
Why? You know, I started to think, what's going on? Why? Why did, you know? And that's, I guess, why, in reiterating what Ray said, Phil, did you do something? What happened?
Nobody hits you for no reason.
Yeah.
We couldn't take that in. We couldn't realise that somebody would do something like that for no reason. You know, everything has a reason in life. And I just sat there dumbstruck.
Because there was none.
Because there was no reason.
There was no reason.
And Phil couldn't offer
They
any
were
explanation.
just singing a song, being happy, weren't they?
He said we were just having a laugh, Mum.
And you're singing it wrong.
Yeah.
Wow.
Bang, yeah. And then your life is changed.
It had nothing to do with singing. It was we would come on to that later on. It had nothing to
Yeah.
do with singing. It was well, I'll tell you now. The youngest boy wanted respect from the others, trying to work his way up the game.
Oh.
Yeah. But while we were in the hospital, we were sitting there then at 20 to 4 in the morning. We knew not just the doctors, but when the police came in and the hospital chaplain came in, we knew. It's like you see on TV. And they just said they did all they can and Christopher died.
And before that, you're just holding out the hope that it's going to be okay.
It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Whatever it
Yeah.
is, it's going to be okay.
Yeah. No
But
matter
the-
what.
But the moment the door opens,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your life is taken away. You're not the same. It's like you come in this room now, put your hand inside my stomach and pull all my guts out. That's how it felt. Because when they said Christopher died, I just collapsed on the floor and bashed my head off the floor, and you ran, didn't you?
you
I ran
ran
out
out,
the
didn't
door.
you?
Yeah.
I remember reading you saying by running away, it's like it's not happened.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a dream. I
It's a
can
dream.
wake up in
Yeah.
a minute and Chrissy will still be alive. And I didn't want it to be real. I really didn't want it to be real. And then I started to think about how hurt he was. And that really stung bad, and I got angry, really angry.
Who are you angry at?
The boys that did it. I wanted to kill them. And I ran into the arms of this policeman in the corridor, and he grabbed me and he just kind of looked down at me and held me, and he said, "We're going to get them." And I said, "No, you're not, because you don't care." And I started screaming at him. I was shouting at him, and I said, "They stamped on his head. Do you know what they did?" And I was so angry. Just couldn't think of anything else but rage.
And Philip in that room,
It's horrid.
Philip was just stunned. He was just stuck to the floor when he fell.
Yeah.
And what he said later on, he said, "I knew something was serious when I saw my dad crying.
Yeah.
He never seen me cry in his life." He said, "When Dad was crying, I knew something serious has happened." He couldn't get it in. It was only me crying that made him realise something's bad. It didn't hit home to him that Chris had died, you know.
But then he knew.
And
Yeah.
then,
But then we had the worst thing that we, you know, I hope this program, this film will show people what we go through. We then had to identify Chris.
I read about this. They asked you to go down, you went to the mortuary, they had him all wrapped up, and I think you said something, it was wrapped up like a mummy.
And this wasn't the mortuary, this was before the mortuary.
Well, before the mortuary.
This was in the Indian, we had to go upstairs to the recovery room.
Right.
But they brought him out of the operating theatre and put him in the recovery room. And his face was all black, this side of his face was bashed in from the kicking.
it's terrible.
They had a tube still in his mouth and they didn't take it out. I could tell you exactly how he looked.
Picture it, yeah.
But before we went in the room, we were told by the policeman that we couldn't touch him, we couldn't hold him.
Yeah.
We found out later, we got a friend to coroner and he explained to us, he said, "Chris is what owns a crime scene and you're not allowed to touch him, he becomes a property of the coroner."
Yeah.
And I mean, it was horrible, wasn't it?
How,
But you know, when we're walking along that corridor, do you know what you're hoping? You're hoping it's someone else. You're hoping it's not Chris.
they got it wrong.
In fact,
Even
you're
then
wishing,
you're
yeah.
hoping.
And then it's not till the last second when you look at his face, and then the policeman said to me, "Is this Chris?" And I just turned around and fell in his arms crying and went, "Yes." I didn't want to say yes. I was hoping that, you know,
They done it
Yeah.
wrong.
yeah.
It wouldn't be him.
And I, you know, this policeman, he just, you know, full credit to him. People don't realise what they had to go through. He just hugged me and held on to me, didn't he, man?
Yeah, he did. He was good. He was really good.
"We'll get him," he went, "we'll get him."
Didn't really
He
believe
promised
it.
me that. He said, "We'll get him."
I don't think I believe
But
it.
you didn't believe him.
None of us did,
I-
no. I said, we're
I
not,
think
we're
I
not the Prime
believe it.
Ministers, we're not the Prime Minister of England, you won't get them. We
Did
don't
you-
care for people like us.
Did you read? Because you read all these things and you see it on TV, and I understand why you say that. Because you see things on TV and you see people get away with murder.
Yeah.
Quite literally get
Yeah.
away with murder. And you think, actually, here we are from Peckham. We do all right, working class, we've worked hard all our lives. But they don't look after us. The state don't look after us.
They don't really care.
They
They
don't
don't
interest
care.
much of us. Well, we moved, you say Peckham, we lived in Peckham, and we moved from Peckham to Surrey to get away from the violence. To
Bring
give
the
our
boys
boys a
away
better
from the
life.
gangs.
You know, so there's more gang fights and more gangs outside like Peckham than there is in Peckham.
No, I've got the stats.
It's bizarre.
Yeah, I've got the stats here, which we'll look
So
at
we moved
later.
away, you know, to get away from the violence.
Yeah.
My son gets murdered.
So you're saying to the police guy, I don't believe you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not going to get him.
Yeah.
He's saying, but we will, trust us.
He promised
Please
me.
trust
He
us.
gave
Mr.
me-
He made a
Donovan, I
promise.
we're going to get him.
Yeah.
You had to stay there. You had to identify Chris's body.
Yeah.
Then you had to leave.
Yeah.
It's been hard.
We didn't leave.
We didn't want to
We
leave.
stayed in the grounds for about 3 hours.
He didn't feel right.
And in that time, I had to ring my other son up and my daughter, to tell him that their brother's dead. And that was hard. My grandson was born with 13 cancers in the eye,
Oh.
and he was having chemo. And Louis that night was in hospital doing a night duty in Chatham Hospital. So when I rang, his wife answered the phone, and she had to get out of bed, run down to the hospital, and tell him his brother's dead. She had to sit with our grandson, and he had to get a minicab up because he doesn't drive. And he came up and he said, "I don't know what to do, Dad." And I said, "There's not you can do. Chris is dead. You know, what can you do? Go home to your son." And he stayed for a while, didn't he? And the police even drove him home. Would you believe that?
You had to wrench yourself away.
My daughter Amanda, she had her phone off that night. She got fed up people ringing her, so she turned the phone off. So the way she found out was the police knocking on her door. And she said to me, "Dad, will you come to the hospital with me?" I didn't want her. I went with her. And we both got permission. I asked permission to kiss him. I said, look, the last thing he did was kiss me. I want to kiss him. And I argued, didn't I? And they said, you kiss his forehead, that's all you can do. I was able to kiss his forehead. And she asked the same. And she turned to me, she said, Daddy, it's cold, can we put some more blankets on him?
Oh.
They don't know, do they?
We've got so many young people watching this right now who are in gangs, and you said, and I want to talk about this, the initiation. One of the lads who was part of that gang of 14, it transpires that it was part of an initiation thing to get through to kind of work his way up in a gang.
Yeah.
What do you say to kids out there who are thinking, you know, to be a man, to be that man, that guy, I've got to do these stupid, horrific things? What do you say to people out there?
I say to the young people now, for the last 11 years we've been going in prisons up and down the country, especially youth offending prisons. There's no respect. The respect you're trying to get in a gang, when you're in prison, them men, them boys, your friends will not come and visit you. So the only respect you get is from your parents. And they're the people you should try to live up to, not try and work your way up a gang, because it don't work. And I always say to them, we both say this, don't we? You've got two things to look forward to when you join a gang: prison and death.
Yeah.
Or somebody else's death.
Or somebody else's death.
Tell me about the court case, and the fact that you couldn't really touch him for 4
Can we
months.
get to the coroner, please?
Yeah, to the coroner.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't actually touch him really properly.
We went to the coroner's office on a Tuesday, but in that time we wrote a letter to the driver, telling him we don't hold her responsible. Because I could have been driving over the hill that night, you could, you know, could have been anybody. We said no matter what the outcome, we don't hold her responsible. We went to the coroner's. She took over an hour explaining his injuries. Nearly every bone was broken from the kicking in the car. She explained his brain damage and everything, didn't she? I just said, look, I'm not interested in that, I want to see my son.
Because they said it took 4 months, because they said we have to find out exactly what was the cause of the death in order to make the prosecution, if they were going down the road of murder, stick. And it took about 4 months for this chemical in his brain, I do believe.
Well, we went in to pay our respects. Again, we had a policeman with us. So we're in the chapel arrest in the coroner's office. And we went in, we prayed over him, we talked to him, we had our pastor with us, and the policeman was at the back making sure we obeyed the rules, not touching him. We came out, my daughter went in with her husband, and the coroner said, I've got bad news. And I said, what could be worse than that? And she said, because of the kicking in the car, we had to prove or kill Chris.
Yeah.
The only way to do this is to remove his brain, wait for an enzyme to come out. And this is her words: you cannot bury Chris for 16 weeks. Not you know, anyway, that's the way
You cannot.
She wasn't nasty, don't get me wrong, we had got really big respect for the lady, I had Diana, big respect for her, but that's the way she's, now Maria, yeah. You cannot bury Chris for 16 weeks, and if these young people can't work it out, he died in May, we buried him in September.
Yeah.
And by the time they release his body, this is a joke, he's our son, and they're releasing his body to us. Yeah.
I brought him into the world.
Yeah.
You know.
The coroner rang us up and she said, "Don't have an open coffin." She put, you know, we talked a bit more. She put the phone down. The police rang. "Don't have an open coffin." Somebody else rang. "Don't have an open coffin." A couple of hours later, undertaker. "Don't have an open coffin." All we had was a wooden casket with his body in, a big picture of Chris. And if you came to pay your respects, they would spray his aftershave around the room. We never got to say goodbye.
You never saw him?
No.
You never got to see the body?
No.
Not after that time in that room.
No, because it was
we
too late.
never got to hug him or kiss him not properly. We were
People,
just sitting in the
people
room at
who
the
do
table.
these things, they don't know. You see people like us on the telly, and it's all so often, but you don't know
What we go through.
what people go through. You have no idea. And I think that's why we talk in schools and we talk to young people, because they need to see the face. You need to come on the journey with us.
We call it a ripple effect.
This is the journey that people go through. You know, this isn't just on telly asking for someone to be found who's killed your son. These are the real things.
This is what happens.
Yeah.
A lot happens, a lot of terrible things happen.
Because they don't understand what parents and the rest of the family go through. I didn't understand the fact that you couldn't really say goodbye.
No.
And you didn't get to see your son
Yeah.
before he was laid in that
Doesn't
coffin.
seem right. Everybody else can pour
John,
him
I got to
and
explain
touch
something.
him,
Yeah,
but we
but
can't.
you can't.
The Undertaker's boyfriend,
Mhm.
he's an Undertaker and all, he went to collect Christopher's body.
Mhm.
And when I was in our office, I took his suit in and clothes in for it to lay out. I don't know why I bothered taking the suit because we couldn't see him. I took his suit out. I wanted him to be dressed properly.
Of course you did.
And she said, I'm going to tell you something, my boyfriend was so angry at seeing Chris. If he got hold of him, he'd kill him.
Yeah.
She said, I'm not being funny, right? I'm cutting it quick. What they'd done to Christopher's body was terrible. She said, this boy wanted to go out and kill him. And he's not even our family, he's an Undertaker. He was so angry. So we never got to see that, did we? What he saw.
But in some ways a blessing, but it's not, because you wanted to say goodbye.
Yeah.
Of course we did.
Okay, I want to kind of move towards the court case, but first I want to look at how they caught the young people who murdered your son. What happened, Ray?
Well, we were sitting indoors, we got back to our house and in walked this policeman. Let me explain something first. When you've got a murder, you've got people in and out your house all day long. You've got the press, you've got cameras, you've got the police, you've got your friends. When they go, you wish they were back. When they're back, you wish they go. You're all up, and everybody wants to make you tea, and they don't know where you are. And you're sitting there, then Colin Sutton walked in.
Who's Colin Sutton?
Colin Sutton was the chief detective in charge of our case.
Okay.
When he walked through our door, he sat down and he turned to me and Brian and said, the first thing he said was, I would never lie to you. And I've got respect for that because, I like people being honest with me. And he said, I put a sign up, I put accident sign on the road. I said, why did you put accident murder? He said, Ray, if I put murder, no one will come forward, trust me. And we did. 28 witnesses came forward. He kept his word, didn't he? It happened.
Yes, he did. He was alright.
And in fact, we found out some of the girls actually not grassed him up, but were trying to grass up the car driver because he, pretended to be witnesses, and gave names.
So part of that group grasped up and actually came
because
forward.
they thought they could get away.
Yeah.
Because they thought it was an accident.
Yeah.
No.
Because that's how clever he was.
Smart.
And then we're indoors, you've got people in and out all the time. You've got liaison officers, you've got police, you've got the press, you've got the papers, because everybody wants to try and help. You've got your family, you've got your friends. When they come, you wish they go. When they go, you wish they were there. And it's the tea, isn't it?
Oh,
Is it constant?
endless as if the tea
It's
is
gonna
going to
soothe
make
you.
it all
They walk
right.
through the door,
Oh.
someone walk through the door, I make a cup of tea, not another one.
It sounds
you don't know where you
ungrateful,
are,
isn't it, really?
yeah? And then the appeal went out at 6 o'clock at night on TV, on BBC and ITV. And again, they kept saying it was an accident.
Right.
Because, and at 11:30 that night, the doorbell rang. I went downstairs, and there was the liaison officer, a big smile on her face, and she went, "We got him." And I never thought I'd danced with a policewoman in my life.
You did?
Yeah. My dad would roll in his grave. And
That must have been it then. It's like, we've got
Yeah,
she
it
came
felt really
upstairs.
good
them.
then.
Yeah.
I brought her upstairs. We got Vi out of bed, didn't we? And the three of us were just doing a Highland fling in the front room. All great girls were just.
Sounds weird, doesn't it?
It was like all our Christmas came at once.
But did you realise when she said we've got them, what you then had to go through?
No, we didn't. No.
So that's part one of our interview with Ray and Vi Donovan. If you have anything that you'd like to share with us based on what you've just heard, you can also email me right now at trevor@breaklondon.co.uk. That's trevor@breaklondon.co.uk. The information is at the bottom of your screens right now. And stay tuned for part two, where we talk about restorative justice. Do you know what that's about? You'll find out next week. Until then, take care.